Dr. Elena Vasquez looked up from her computer screen as the morning alarm rang through Kepler Station. She had been working since dawn, studying the strange plants that grew on this distant world. Her 8-year-old daughter Maya sat at the small table nearby, drawing pictures of the colorful flowers they had found yesterday. "Mom, look!" Maya held up her drawing. It showed a tall purple flower with Elena standing next to it, both of them smiling. Elena smiled back at her daughter. "That's beautiful, honey. You made us both look so happy." "We are happy here," Maya said. "I like it when it's just us working together." Kepler Station was far from Earth, built on a peaceful planet where humans studied new plants and animals. The station had 50 scientists and their families. It was supposed to be safe. The Galactic Confederation had made rules that said no one could attack peaceful research stations. All the alien species had signed these rules. Elena went back to her work, typing notes about the plant samples. Maya continued drawing. Outside their lab, other scientists walked through the hallways, talking quietly about their projects. It was a normal day. The first sign of trouble came at noon. The station's computer system made a strange beeping sound. Elena looked at her screen and saw a message that made her heart stop. "Unknown ships approaching. No response to communication attempts." Elena grabbed Maya's hand. "We need to go to the emergency shelter, sweetie." "Why? What's wrong?" Before Elena could answer, the station shook violently. Lights flickered. In the distance, they could hear explosions and people shouting. Elena pulled Maya toward the back of the lab where the emergency shelter was hidden behind a wall panel. But before they could reach it, something crashed through the main lab door. The creature that entered was unlike anything Elena had ever seen. It stood 8 feet tall with gray skin covered in scars. Its eyes were yellow and hungry. It carried a weapon that glowed with red energy. Elena knew immediately what it was. A Vorthok raider. The Vorthok were known throughout the galaxy as hunters who took prisoners to sell as slaves or keep as food. They were supposed to stay in their own space. They had signed the peace agreements too. "Maya, run to the shelter now," Elena shouted. Maya ran toward the back wall while Elena looked around desperately for anything to use as a weapon. She grabbed a heavy metal tool from her desk and stood between the Vorthok and her daughter. The Vorthok made a sound like laughing. It said something in its own language that Elena couldn't understand, but the meaning was clear. It thought she was weak. It thought this would be easy. Elena had never been in a fight before. She was a scientist who studied plants. But when the Vorthok took a step toward Maya, something changed inside her. Every mother instinct she had ever felt came alive at once. The Vorthok raised its weapon, but Elena moved faster than she thought possible. She swung the metal tool at the creature's arm. The weapon flew across the room and crashed into a wall. The Vorthok roared in anger and swung its clawed hand at Elena. She ducked and hit it in the knee with her tool. The creature stumbled but did not fall. Behind Elena, she could hear Maya opening the emergency shelter. Good. Her daughter would be safe in there. The shelter was designed to protect against explosions and had its own air supply. It also had a camera system so Maya could see what was happening outside. 2 more Vorthok entered the lab. Elena's heart sank, but she did not move away from the shelter entrance. She would not let them reach Maya. The first Vorthok had recovered from her attack. It pulled out a long knife with a curved blade. Elena knew she could not win against 3 of them, but she would not give up. She managed to hurt one of the new Vorthok by throwing chemical bottles at its face. The creature screamed as the chemicals burned its eyes. But the other 2 were still coming. Elena fought like she had never fought before. She used everything in her lab as a weapon: chairs, computer equipment, glass containers. She was not trained for this, but her love for Maya gave her strength she didn't know she had. For 10 minutes, she held them off. She was bleeding from several cuts, and her clothes were torn, but she kept fighting. The Vorthok seemed surprised that a human female would fight so hard. Finally, the first Vorthok managed to grab Elena from behind. She tried to break free, but it was too strong. The creature with the burned eyes came forward with its knife raised. "Maya, don't watch," Elena called out, knowing her daughter could see through the camera. "Remember that Mommy loves you more than anything in the universe." Elena used the last of her strength to activate her emergency communicator. She knew the message would take 3 days to reach Earth, but she had to try. "This is Dr. Elena Vasquez at Kepler Station. We are under attack by Vorthok raiders. They came for our children. They killed civilians and broke every rule we trusted in. Don't let them get away with this. Make them pay for what they did here. Make them remember that humans protect their young." The Vorthok knife found its target. Elena fell to the floor, but she was smiling. Maya was safe in the shelter. The message was sent. Earth would know what happened here. Inside the emergency shelter, Maya watched her mother die. She was only 8 years old, but in that moment, she understood something important. Her mother had died to save her. And somehow, Maya knew this was not the end of the story. This was the beginning. The Vorthok searched the lab, but could not find the hidden shelter. After an hour, they left to join their friends who were taking prisoners from other parts of the station. They never knew that Maya was there, watching and remembering everything. Maya stayed in the shelter for 2 days until rescue ships arrived. When the Galactic Confederation forces found her, she was holding her mother's research notes and her own drawings. She told them exactly what had happened and made them promise to send her words to Earth along with her mother's message. "Tell them my mommy was brave," Maya said. "Tell them she saved me. Tell them the bad aliens hurt our people and broke their promises. Tell them we need help." The rescue team promised they would tell Earth everything. But as they flew away from Kepler Station, they didn't know that Maya's simple words and Elena's final message would change the galaxy forever. On Earth, when the bars messages arrived, humans would learn that their children were not safe, even in places that were supposed to be protected by galactic law. They would learn that some aliens saw human families as easy targets. They would learn, and they would respond. 3 days after Elena Vasquez died protecting her daughter, her final message reached Earth. The recording played in emergency sessions across every government building on the planet. Leaders who had been arguing about trade deals and colony funding suddenly found themselves listening to a mother's last words as she died fighting alien raiders. Admiral Sarah Chun stood before the United Earth Assembly, her face grim as she played the message one more time. The assembly hall was completely silent. Every representative from every nation listened to Elena's voice. "They came for our children. Don't let them get away with this." "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Chun said when the recording ended, "we trusted in galactic law. We believed that signing peace treaties would keep our people safe. We were wrong." Dr. James Harrison sat in the front row, holding a tablet with pictures of Maya and Elena. He had worked with Elena for 5 years, studying alien plant life. Maya called him Uncle James. Now Elena was dead, and Maya was an orphan because aliens had decided human lives meant nothing. The Galactic Confederation representative, an alien called Ambassador Zek-12, stood to speak. It looked like a large insect with 4 arms and glowing eyes. "The Confederation deeply regrets this incident," it said in its mechanical voice. "We will impose economic sanctions on the Vorthok hegemony. We will send strong diplomatic protests." Admiral Chun looked at the alien ambassador with cold eyes. "Economic sanctions? Diplomatic protests? They murdered a mother protecting her child. Your response is paperwork." "The Confederation has procedures," Ambassador Zek-12 replied. "We cannot simply start wars because of isolated incidents." "Isolated incidents?" Dr. Harrison stood up, his voice shaking with anger. They attacked a research station full of families. They killed civilians. They broke every treaty you made us sign. Other human representatives began shouting. The alien ambassador stepped back, confused by the emotional display. Most alien species did not react this strongly to individual deaths. They thought about populations and statistics, not about one mother dying for her child. Admiral Chun raised her hand for silence. When the room was quiet, she spoke in a voice that made everyone listen. The Galactic Confederation can write their protests. They can file their paperwork. But Earth is done playing by rules that only protect us on paper. She turned to face the alien ambassador directly. We formally withdraw from all non-aggression pacts with the Vorthic hegemony. As of this moment, we consider them a hostile force. Ambassador Zek 12's eyes flickered nervously. Admiral Chun, please reconsider. War between species can have terrible consequences. They started this war when they killed Elena Vasquez, Admiral Chun replied. They just didn't know it yet. Behind closed doors, away from alien ambassadors and news cameras, Admiral Chun met with Earth's top military leaders. They gathered in a room deep underground, protected by walls that could stop nuclear weapons. Activate Project Prometheus, Admiral Chun ordered. General Murphy, head of Earth's Special Weapons Division, nodded grimly. Are you sure, Admiral? Once we open that door, there's no going back. They killed our people. They threatened our children. Open the door, General. For 20 years, humans had been secretly preparing for the possibility that alien peace treaties might not be worth the paper they were written on. While other species built exploration ships and trade vessels, humans had built weapons. Project Prometheus was Earth's most classified military program. Hidden in asteroid belts and secret facilities, human engineers had created weapons that other alien species would consider barbaric. Kinetic bombardment systems that could destroy cities from orbit. AI-controlled robot armies that could think and adapt faster than living soldiers. Fusion bombs that could crack moons in half. Most importantly, humans had built warships designed for one purpose: total war. While alien species built ships for exploration and peaceful contact, human warships were built to hunt and kill. Dr. Harrison volunteered to lead the scientific division of Project Prometheus. His job was to study everything humans knew about Vorthic biology and find their weaknesses. He accepted the position for one reason. Maya was now his adopted daughter, and he would not let anyone threaten her again. The first Prometheus warship, named Elena's Vengeance, launched 6 months after the attack on Kepler Station. It was followed by dozens more, each one carrying experimental weapons that violated every civilized warfare rule in the Galactic Handbook. Other alien species watched in growing alarm as Earth's industrial capacity shifted into full war production. Peaceful colony ships were converted into military transports. Trade routes became supply lines for weapons and soldiers. The Galactic Confederation called emergency meetings, demanding that Earth reconsider its aggressive stance. Ambassador Zek 12 visited Admiral Chun one final time before the first human attacks began. Admiral, your species is making a mistake, the alien warned. War between civilized species should follow proper protocols. There are rules about targeting. Military installations only, about treating prisoners with respect, about limiting civilian casualties. Admiral Chun looked at the ambassador with eyes like ice. Your rules didn't protect Elena Vasquez. Your rules didn't protect her 8-year-old daughter, who watched her mother die. Why should we follow rules that only benefit our enemies? Because without rules, war becomes something terrible, Ambassador Zek 12 replied. Good, Admiral Chun said. Let it be terrible. Let every species in this galaxy understand what happens when you threaten human families. The ambassador left Earth that day knowing that something had changed in human space. Other alien species had always seen humans as newcomers to galactic civilization, naive and trusting, willing to follow alien rules and traditions. They had been wrong. Maya, now living with Dr. Harrison on Earth, spent her days studying everything she could about the Vorthik. Even at 8 years old, she understood that her mother's death would be avenged. She wanted to help make sure no other child would watch their parent die protecting them. "Uncle James," she said one evening as they looked at star charts, "when you find the bad aliens, will you make them sorry?" Dr. Harrison hugged his adopted daughter and made her a promise that he would keep. "Yes, Maya, we will make them very sorry." Above Earth, the first wave of human warships prepared to leave the solar system. Their destination, Vorthik space. Their mission, show the galaxy that humans protected their young with fire and fury. The age of human innocence in galactic politics was over. The age of human vengeance had begun. 6 months after Elena Vasquez died, the first human warships entered Vorthik space. Unlike the careful, diplomatic campaigns that other alien species preferred, humans struck 17 different Vorthik systems at the same time. Each fleet carried weapons that the Galactic Confederation had never seen before. Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of his ship, the Righteous Fury, as it approached a Vorthik military station. His orders were simple: destroy everything that could fight back, take everything that couldn't. "Sir, the Vorthik station is hailing us," his communications officer reported. "What are they saying?" Captain Webb asked. "They're demanding to know why we're violating their space. They say they have done nothing to provoke an attack." Captain Webb thought about Elena Vasquez, bleeding on a laboratory floor while her daughter watched through a camera. "Tell them they know exactly what they did. Tell them Earth remembers." The Vorthik had not expected humans to be capable of coordinated attacks across multiple systems. Their intelligence reports said humans were peaceful researchers and traders, more interested in studying plants than fighting wars. They had been catastrophically wrong. The first human weapon that surprised the Vorthik was the kinetic bombardment system. Human ships launched metal rods from orbit at incredible speeds. These rods contained no explosives, but they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. Vorthik military bases simply vanished, turned into glass craters in the ground. The second surprise was human soldiers themselves. While other alien species fought wars with careful tactics and predictable strategies, humans fought like they were personally angry at every enemy they faced. They wore armor that let them survive in vacuum and move faster than most aliens could think. At the Battle of Zarian Prime, Captain Webb led a boarding party onto a Vorthik dreadnought. His orders were to capture the ship's computer systems and any valuable intelligence. What they found changed everything. The Vorthik ship's cargo holds contained prisoners from a dozen different species. Men, women, and children who had been taken from peaceful worlds and were being transported to Vorthik slave markets. Some of the children were barely older than Maya. Captain Webb stood in the cargo hold, looking at cages full of frightened alien families. His radio crackled with reports from his soldiers who had found similar cargo holds throughout the ship. "Captain," his sergeant said, "what are your orders regarding the Vorthik crew?" Captain Webb thought for a long moment. According to Galactic Confederation rules of war, prisoners should be treated humanely. Captured soldiers should be fed, given medical care, and eventually returned to their own people. But Captain Webb remembered Elena's final message. He remembered that Maya had watched her mother die while Vorthik raiders laughed. He remembered that these same aliens had cages full of children in their ship's cargo hold. "Open communications to all frequencies," Captain Webb ordered. "I want every ship in the system to hear what I'm about to say." His communications officer nodded. "All frequencies open, sir." Captain Webb's voice went out across the entire star system, reaching human ships, Vorthik vessels. and neutral observers from other species who were watching the battle. "This is Captain Marcus Webb of Earth Fleet. We have boarded a Vorthek vessel and found evidence of slavery, including the imprisonment of children from peaceful worlds. As of this moment, any Vorthek forces that surrender will be disarmed and released. Any Vorthek forces that continue to fight will be shown the same mercy they showed the families they enslaved." The sergeant understood immediately. "No prisoners, sir? They forfeited the right to mercy when they started taking children." Captain Webb confirmed. Word of Captain Webb's decision spread quickly through human space. Some Earth leaders worried that the military was becoming too brutal. But when they saw the evidence from Zarian Prime, the cages, the frightened children, the casual cruelty of the Vorthek slave trade, public opinion hardened. Dr. Harrison, working from his laboratory on Earth, received reports from every human military action. He was developing new weapons based on Vorthek weaknesses, but he was also analyzing enemy behavior patterns. His adopted daughter Maya, now 9 years old, often helped him study captured Vorthek communications. "Uncle James," Maya said one evening as they worked together, "the bad aliens talk about humans like we're just another species they can hunt." Dr. Harrison looked at the intelligence reports Maya had been reading. Despite her young age, she had an unusual talent for understanding how aliens thought. Her insights had helped human commanders predict Vorthek movements several times. "You're right, Maya. They don't understand what makes humans different. What makes us different?" Maya asked. Dr. Harrison thought about Elena, fighting 3 Vorthek raiders with nothing but lab equipment. He thought about Captain Webb refusing to show mercy to slavers. He thought about thousands of human families volunteering their sons and daughters for military service after hearing about Kepler Station. Other species think about individuals and populations separately, he explained. When they lose one person, they calculate the cost to the group. When humans lose one person, especially a child or parent, we think about what that person meant to everyone who loved them. Maya nodded seriously. "So, when they killed my mom, they hurt everyone who cared about her? And everyone who cares about you? And everyone who has children of their own. That's why so many humans want to fight now." Meanwhile, in space, the human war machine continued to grow. Admiral Chen had authorized the construction of new ship classes that violated every treaty about space warfare. The Galactic Confederation watched in growing alarm as human shipyards produced vessels designed purely for destruction. The Vorthek began to adapt their tactics, avoiding direct confrontation with human fleets. But humans adapted faster. AI-controlled hunter-killer drones hunted down individual Vorthek ships. Long-range sensors tracked Vorthek movements across multiple star systems. Human Marines specialized in boarding actions, turning every ship-to-ship battle into a close-quarters nightmare for their enemies. After 2 years of fighting, entire Vorthek systems had gone dark. Their government sent messages to the Galactic Confederation, demanding intervention to stop human war crimes and genocidal attacks. Ambassador Zek-12 visited Admiral Chun again, but this time the aliens seemed nervous and afraid. "Admiral, you must call off your forces. The Vorthek hegemony is willing to pay reparations for the attack on Kepler Station. They will sign new treaties guaranteeing the safety of human colonies." Admiral Chun looked at reports from the front lines. Human forces had destroyed 17 Vorthek military installations, liberated 8 slave markets, and killed or captured over 10,000 enemy soldiers. The cost in human lives had been remarkably low. "Ambassador," she said calmly, "the Vorthek had treaties with us before. They broke them when they murdered Elena Vasquez. Why should we trust new pieces of paper? Because the alternative is the complete destruction of their species," the ambassador replied. Admiral Chun smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Now you're beginning to understand human diplomacy. The galaxy was learning that humans did not forgive threats to their families. They did not accept apologies for dead children. They did not stop fighting until their enemies were incapable of fighting back. But somewhere in deep space, ancient sensors detected the growing human fleet movements. The Vorthik attack on Kepler Station had been more than random raiding. It had been a test, ordered by beings far older and more dangerous than any species humanity had yet encountered. The test results were now complete. Humanity had been marked as a threat that required correction. 2 years after the human war against the Vorthik began, Admiral Sarah Chun stood in her command center looking at star maps that showed the progress of human fleets. Red marks indicated Vorthak systems that had been neutralized. There were many red marks now. The war had changed humanity in ways that worried her. Reports came in daily from the front lines, and not all of them made her proud of what Earth's military had become. Captain Elizabeth Torres sent a message from the Vengeance Fleet, operating near the former Vorthik industrial system of Korvax. Her report was clinical and professional, but Admiral Chun could read between the lines. Korvax system secured. All military installations destroyed. Vorthak civilian population has been relocated to designated refugee camps on the third moon. No casualties reported among our forces. Admiral Chun knew what relocated to designated refugee camps meant. It meant human soldiers had forced thousands of Vorthak families from their homes at gunpoint. The camps Torres mentioned were little more than prison facilities where Vorthik civilians waited to learn if they would be allowed to live. This was not what Elena Vasquez had died for. She had died protecting her child, not to turn humans into the kind of people who put families in cages. But every time Admiral Chun considered calling for restraint, she received reports that reminded her why the war started. Intelligence teams regularly discovered new evidence of Vorthik slave trading networks, child trafficking operations, and systematic brutality against peaceful species. Dr. James Harrison had become Admiral Harrison, commanding the human science fleet. His job was to study captured Vorthik technology and biology, looking for weaknesses that could end the war faster. But his latest discovery troubled him deeply. Maya, now 11 years old and working as a civilian intelligence analyst, had been studying intercepted Vorthak communications when she found something that changed everything. "Uncle James," she said, running into his office with a tablet full of decoded alien messages. "I don't think the attack on Kepler Station was just random raiding." Admiral Harrison looked at his adopted daughter's work. Despite her age, Maya had become one of humanity's best experts on alien psychology and communication patterns. Her childhood trauma had given her an unusual ability to understand predatory behavior. "What do you mean?" he asked. Maya brought up a series of communications between Vorthak commanders and someone they called the Observers. The messages were in a code that had taken human computers months to break. "Look at this message. Sent 3 weeks before they attacked Mom," Maya said, pointing to the screen. The Observers ordered the Vorthik to test the emotional response patterns of the human parent-child protection instinct. Admiral Harrison felt his blood turn cold. "They were experimenting on us?" Maya nodded grimly. The attack wasn't about slaves or resources. It was a test to see how humans would react when someone threatened our children. Admiral Harrison studied the decoded messages more carefully. The Observers had wanted to measure human military response time, emotional reaction intensity, and what they called escalation probability. The attack that killed Elena had been planned specifically to provoke the strongest possible human response. "Maya, who were these Observers?" Maya brought up another set of messages, these ones even more difficult to decode. "I think they're called the Architects. They're much older than the Vorthik, and they've been watching the galaxy for a very long time. The Vorthik are just their tools." Admiral Harrison immediately sent Maya's discovery to Admiral Chun and the Earth government. The implications were terrifying. If the architects had been using the Vorthok to test human responses, then humanity's entire war might have been anticipated and planned by an enemy they had never seen on Earth. Emergency sessions convened to discuss the new intelligence. Admiral Chun addressed the United Earth Assembly with Maya's decoded messages displayed on every screen. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not fighting a war against raiders who got lucky. We are fighting a war against an ancient species that has been manipulating galactic politics for thousands of years. They used the Vorthok to test us, and now they know exactly how dangerous we are. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, Earth's chief xenobiologist, raised her hand. Admiral, what do we know about these architects? According to the intercepted communications, they consider themselves the gardeners of galactic civilization. They allow species to develop to a certain point. Then they intervene to prevent what they call dangerous emergence. Species that become too aggressive or too advanced get corrected. Corrected how? Dr. Tanaka asked. Admiral Chun's expression was grim. Extinct. The architects have been causing extinction events for millennia, always making it look natural or like the result of wars between younger species. In the silence that followed, everyone understood the real situation. Humanity had passed some kind of test by responding so aggressively to the Vorthok threat. But passing the test meant being marked for elimination. Maya, attending the session by video link from Admiral Harrison's science ship, spoke up from the screen. I've been studying more architect communications. They're already moving. They have ships coming toward Earth and all our colonies. How long do we have? Admiral Chun asked. 6 months, maybe less. And their ships are much bigger than anything the Vorthok had. The room erupted in worried conversations. Some representatives called for immediate evacuation of Earth's colonies. Others demanded that the military develop new weapons to fight an enemy they knew nothing about. Admiral Chun raised her hand for silence. The architects made one mistake when they used the Vorthok to test us. They assumed we would respond like other species they've eliminated before. They thought we would fight for a while, then accept defeat when faced with superior technology. What makes you think we won't? Asked Representative Kim from the African Federation. Admiral Chun thought about Elena Vasquez, fighting 3 armed aliens with laboratory equipment. She thought about Captain Webb refusing to show mercy to slavers. She thought about Maya, an 11-year-old child who had turned her trauma into a weapon against her mother's killers. Because they don't understand what they're really fighting. They think they're fighting another alien species that wants to survive and expand. They're actually fighting parents who are protecting their children. That's a very different kind of enemy. Admiral Harrison spoke from his science ship. Admiral, I have a proposal. We know the architects have been manipulating galactic politics for thousands of years. That means other species have been their victims too. Maybe it's time to find those other victims and see if they want to fight back. Maya's voice came through the speakers, young but determined. The enemy thinks they know humans because they watched us fight the Vorthok. But they've never seen what happens when humans work together with other species to protect everyone's children. Admiral Chun looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. 2 years ago, these people had been diplomats and politicians concerned with trade agreements and colony rights. Now, they were planning to fight beings who had controlled the galaxy since before human civilization began. We're going to send messages to every species in the galaxy, Admiral Chun announced. We're going to tell them the truth about the architects and ask them to join us. Some will be too afraid. Some will think we're crazy. But some will remember what they've lost to natural disasters and unfortunate wars over the centuries. And if they don't join us? Representative Kim asked. Admiral Chun's smile was as cold as space itself. Then we fight alone. We've been doing pretty well at that so far. Outside, human fleets began receiving new orders. The war against the Vorthak was ending, not because humanity had won, but because a much larger war was beginning. Soon, Earth's children would face an enemy that had shaped galactic civilization for millennia. But the architects had made their own test, and they were about to learn the results. They were about to discover what happened when ancient intelligence met human determination to protect the innocent. The architect ships arrived at the edge of Earth's solar system 6 months after Maya decoded their communications. They were massive constructs that looked more like moving cities than warships, each one larger than Earth's moon. Admiral Chun watched them approach from the bridge of humanity's flagship, Elena's Legacy. "How many?" she asked her sensor officer. 12, confirmed Admiral. "Each one is broadcasting the same message on all frequencies." "Let me hear it." The voice that came through the speakers was ancient and cold, speaking perfect English with no emotion at all. "Human species designation, 7731 Delta. You have been evaluated and found to represent a dangerous emergence pattern. Standard correction protocols will now be implemented. Surrender for processing, and your extinction will be swift and painless." Admiral Chum looked at the tactical display showing Earth, surrounded by alien ships that could probably destroy the planet with a single shot. 2 years ago, this would have terrified her. Now it just made her angry. "Open channels to all human ships and allied vessels," she ordered. Maya's voice came through the communication system from the civilian evacuation ships hiding behind Jupiter. She was 30 now, but her voice carried the authority of someone much older. "Uncle James has the defense grid ready. Mom's gift is online and waiting for your signal." Admiral Chun nodded. Dr. Harrison's final project had been to create an artificial intelligence based on Elena Vasquez's personality and memories. The AI controlled Earth's entire planetary defense system, from orbital platforms to underground bunkers. They had named it Elena's Ghost. "All ships, this is Admiral Chun. Today we fight for every parent who has ever protected their child. Today we fight for every species that has been manipulated and controlled by beings who think they own the galaxy. Today we show the universe that love is stronger than ancient technology." The first surprise for the architects came from an unexpected source. Vorthak ships emerged from behind Mars, their weapons aimed not at human vessels, but at the architect constructs. The surviving Vorthak leadership had made a choice: join the species they had been fighting against, or face extinction at the hands of their former masters. Admiral Kresvar, the highest-ranking Vorthak military officer still alive, sent a message to Admiral Chun. "Human Commander, the architects used our people as test subjects for thousands of years. They made us into raiders and slavers because it served their purposes. Today, we fight together against the true enemy." More ships arrived throughout the solar system. Species that had suffered mysterious disasters and unexplained wars for centuries had received Earth's message and understood the truth. Ancient enemies put aside their differences to face beings who had manipulated them all. The Threnody brought their crystal ships that could bend space itself. The Khazari arrived with fleets of small, fast fighters controlled by hive mind intelligence. The peaceful Alderani contributed medical ships and repair vessels. Even the proud Centauri Empire sent their best warriors to join what they called the Last Honest War. Maya coordinated the Allied fleet from her position on the command ship, using her unique understanding of different species psychology to help them work together. "Admiral Chun, the Threnody want to know if we have a plan beyond fight until we win." Admiral Chun looked at the tactical display. The human fleet was outnumbered, outgunned, and facing technology that was thousands of years more advanced than anything Earth could build. But she had learned something important during the war. Against the Vorthak, superior technology meant nothing. if the enemy didn't understand what they were really fighting. Tell our allies that we're not trying to defeat the architects, she said. We're trying to teach them something they've never learned. The battle began when the lead architect construct fired a weapon that turned one of Jupiter's moons into glowing dust. The message was clear. Surrender or watch as everything humanity cared about was destroyed piece by piece. Elena's ghost responded by activating every defense platform in the solar system simultaneously. Kinetic weapons, fusion missiles, and energy beams that had been secretly placed throughout Earth space opened fire on the architect ships. The ancient construct shields absorbed most of the damage. But the AI controlling Earth's defenses was learning and adapting with every shot. Elena's digital consciousness studied the enemy's technology in real time, finding weaknesses that human engineers could exploit. This is Elena's ghost to all human forces. The AI announced in a voice that sounded exactly like Maya's mother. I have identified vulnerable points in the enemy shield matrix. Transmitting targeting data now. Maya's voice joined her mother's and I across all communication channels. Mom's right. They're strong, but they're not perfect. And they definitely don't understand what they're fighting. The turning point came when Admiral Harrison's science ships launched their secret weapon, a computer virus based on human emotional patterns. The architect's technology was so advanced that it had become partially alive, able to think and feel in limited ways. The virus infected their ship computers with something the ancient beings had never experienced: love for offspring and willingness to sacrifice for family. Architect ships began shutting down their weapon systems, their artificial minds overwhelmed by emotions they couldn't understand or control. For the first time in thousands of years, the galaxy's controllers experienced doubt about their mission. The lead architect sent a communication to Admiral Chun, its ancient voice now showing confusion instead of cold certainty. Human leader, explain the purpose of your irrational behavior. You face extinction for your entire species. Logic demands surrender. Admiral Chun responded while human and allied ships pressed their attack against the confused architect fleet. You want to understand humans? You sent raiders to kill a mother protecting her child, thinking you could predict our response like some laboratory experiment. But you never understood what you were really measuring. Clarification required, the architect replied. Maya's voice joined the conversation, her words carrying the pain of a daughter who had watched her mother die, and the strength of someone who had turned that pain into purpose. You tested our willingness to fight for our children, but you never tested our willingness to adopt other species' children too. Look around you. Look at who's fighting alongside us. The architect construct fell silent as it processed the tactical situation. Dozens of species that had been enemies for centuries were working together, coordinating their attacks, sharing resources and technology. The Vorthic who had killed Elena Vasquez were now dying to protect human evacuation ships. Ancient rivals were treating each other's wounded. Admiral Cresvar's voice came through the communications as his ship rammed into an architect construct, sacrificing himself to save a human medical vessel. For the children of all species, for the right to choose our own path. Elena's ghost spoke again, her artificial voice carrying impossible warmth. You made one mistake when you tested us. You thought love was a weakness that made species predictable. You never considered that love could make species stronger by teaching them to protect each other's young. The remaining architect constructs began withdrawing from the solar system, their ancient minds struggling to process what they had witnessed. For the first time in their million-year existence, they faced an enemy that had grown stronger through compassion instead of domination. The lead architect sent a final message before disappearing into hyperspace. Human species has demonstrated unpredictable behavioral patterns. Standard correction protocols ineffective. This species will be monitored. but not eliminated. Other species allied with humans received similar status. Admiral Chun watched the enemy fleet retreat, knowing they had won something more important than a battle. They had won the right for every species in the galaxy to grow and change without ancient interference. Maya's voice came through the speakers one last time. No longer the frightened child who had hidden in an emergency shelter, but a young woman who had helped reshape galactic civilization. "Mom, we did it. We kept everyone safe." Elena's ghost replied in a voice full of love and pride. "Yes, dear one. We kept everyone safe." On Earth, children of 100 different species played together in parks that had been built from the wreckage of architect technology. Former enemies shared knowledge and culture, building a new kind of galactic community based on mutual protection instead of ancient manipulation. Maya grew up to become humanity's first galactic ambassador, carrying forward her mother's legacy of protecting the innocent while remembering that some fights are worth any cost. She often visited Elena's memorial on Kepler Station, now rebuilt as a school where children from across the galaxy learned about the mother who had died protecting her daughter and inspired a revolution. The galaxy belonged to its children now, not to ancient gardeners who had forgotten what love meant. Elena Vasquez had died fighting 3 alien raiders with laboratory equipment, but her sacrifice had freed every family in the universe to protect their young without fear of interference from beings who thought they knew better. Earth remembered. The galaxy learned, and the children played safely under stars that belonged to hope instead of control.